James Turner for the untouchable, true school sports. Let's go, baby. Bow!
Be careful what you wish for because it can become a reality.
Yeah. The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so in my last video about Hamzah Sheeraz and Edgar Berlanga, I had mentioned that, you know, the biggest loser in that fight wasn't Edgar Berlanga. The biggest loser in that fight was Terence Crawford, because I feel like now with Hamzah Sheeraz having a star-making performance like that and him now being on the radar of a lot more boxing fans, he's in a position now where, you know, if Canelo comes to do that fight, Canelo versus Hamzah Sheeraz all of a sudden becomes the next massive matchup to make it in the super middleweight division, right? And I just think that with Hamzah Sheeraz being so liked and looked after, and for Turki Alalshikh having such an affinity for him, I truly believe that if Terence Crawford is even in a semi-competitive fight, he's 1,000% getting robbed. And I know you could say that that's been the case in a lot of Canelo fights, but I really feel like it's more of a case now than ever because of what's in place with Hamzah Sheeraz. So, you know, Crawford can beat Canelo. I'm not going to write off Terence Crawford. He's an amazing fighter, and it would have shot me if he beat Canelo. But I'm gonna look ahead a little bit, and I'm going to get out in front of this. And I want to talk about the fact of, will Canelo Alvarez actually fight Hamzah Sheeraz if, you know, Canelo Alvarez gets past Terence Crawford? And I think it's a legitimate question to ask, because when you check under the hood, and let's be real, I know a lot of the Canelo fans, they don't like me, they're not fond of me, because I used to be out here talking crazy about Canelo like 4 years ago when I was when I was riding for Demetrius Andrade to get his shot. You know, I used to be a big Andrade fan. But anyway, if we just check under the hood, right, and Canelo fans, cover your ears, because you might not like what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. It's the stone cold truth. Really and truthfully, if you just look at the last, let's just say, we'll say from Golovkin on up, Golovkin 3 on up. Now, all of Canelo's wins since Golovkin 3 have aged terribly. You know, Gennady Golovkin retired, and he really wasn't a 168-pounder, so that fight was a farce. John Ryder, you know, gave Canelo, you know, a spirited effort, especially in the back half of that fight. But John Ryder got stopped by Jaime Munguia in his very next fight right after Canelo and retired, so that didn't age well. Jermell Charlo has not been seen and really hasn't been heard much from since Canelo beat him. That win didn't age well. Jaime Munguia, who Canelo beat, got knocked out by the Frenchman Bruno Shiraz, who had 4 knockouts, who was pillow-fisted and there to just make him look good. And Edgar Berlanga, who, as many of us know, because Edgar wouldn't shut up about it and kept letting us know about the fact that he won 12 rounds with a legend, you know, he got destroyed in 5 rounds and looked like trash against Hamzah Sheeraz. So all of Canelo's wins from Golovkin 3 on up have aged terribly. He's basically been semi-retired, and anybody who's not a Canelo Alvarez pom-pom waver, or for lack of a better term, a dick rider, everyone knows that if, you know, he hasn't been fighting the best, and he's been pretty much semi-retired for a long time. So that begs the question: if Canelo Alvarez gets past Terence Crawford, which will be a big win in his career because of who Crawford is in the sport, him being pound for pound, if he still has that ambition to box, and, you know, Canelo hasn't said he's going to retire. Like, Canelo hasn't made it known to the public that he's going to retire after the Crawford fight or anything like that. So we got to assume that he's still going to box, that he's still going to have that ambition in his heart to compete. If that is the case, will he fight Hamzah Sheeraz? Because look, for years on end, many people in boxing fans, boxing media, everyone in the community was like, yo, we want Canelo Alvarez to fight Dave Benavidez. And we heard every excuse in the book as to why he couldn't fight Dave Benavidez. Dave Benavidez turned Canelo Alvarez into a refugee, and he fled North America to go box in Saudi. So with that being said, will history repeat itself? Will Canelo Alvarez duck and avoid another younger, bigger, stronger, fresher fighter than him? And truth be told, I think the answer, I don't know. You know what? I don't want to say no. I don't want to say no. The reason I won't completely write off Canelo ducking Hamzah Sheeraz is because Hamzah Sheeraz is a lot more mild-mannered than Dave Benavidez. Dave Benavidez was talking crazy to Canelo, you know, and obviously Canelo Alvarez doesn't like that. And I don't really think, you know, my mentality is that, you know, this sport of boxing, this is not. They say it's a gentleman's sport, but no, like Deontay Wilder says, this is a gladiator sport, and people are trying to kill you if they can to win and achieve what they want and make their lives better for their family and themselves. So, a lot of fighters have this crazy mentality that you need to have, and they carry it with them even outside the ring. And Benavidez will talk all kinds of crazy to Canelo, and Canelo don't like that because Canelo is used to people placating to him and talking nice to him and this, that, and the third, playing nice. And Benavidez wasn't doing that. And so Hamzah Sheeraz, I think, might have a chance to get a Canelo fight because I think he will be more mild-mannered than a guy like Dave Benavidez. He'll be overly respectful. He will exhibit classic British manners when it comes to dealing with Canelo Alvarez and or anybody he fights, as he did with even Edgar Berlanga, who was talking crazy. So I think that will actually give him a chance. And then on top of that, I actually think that with Turki Alalshikh backing Hamzah Sheeraz so much, you got to remember, I was saying this before. This is not something new that I've been saying. I was saying this before Hamzah Sheeraz knocked out Berlanga last night. Hamzah Sheeraz is the golden boy of Riyadh season. He basically is the Canelo Alvarez of Riyadh season. Why do I say that? Because you got to understand the politics at play here. Hamzah Sheeraz is a young fighter. He's an exciting fighter. He's a good fighter. But also, he's Pakistani. He's a fellow Muslim, and Turki Alalshikh is going to look after the Muslim fighters. That's not hating or making it a thing about religion. It's just the truth. And you can tell that Turki has a deep affinity for Hamzah Sheeraz based on how he talks about him. Even if you go back and you look at the Hamzah Sheeraz fight, that was a fight in which Turki was literally going to the corner and telling Hamzah what the scorecards was to keep him informed. So he definitely likes him, and because he likes him so much, he's going to use his influence, I think, to maybe pay Canelo Alvarez a little something extra on top. And I think Hamzah Sheeraz, as much as I want to sit here and say history will repeat itself, and Canelo Alvarez will duck Hamzah Sheeraz, I actually feel like if there was ever a fighter, a young fighter, a younger, bigger, stronger, fresher fighter that Canelo Alvarez might fight, I would say Hamzah Sheeraz is definitely one of them, just because of the fact of how he is, who he is to Turkey, and the fact that also, I'll throw this in there, he's British, and Canelo Alvarez is undefeated against British fighters. He's never lost to a Brit, and I think he'll like his chances of fighting another Brit. Now, I know he fought Callum Smith, and Callum Smith was big, but not as big as Hamzah. Hamzah's a big dude, and at 168, he's a terror. He's filled out, and he made a big statement last night and put himself on the map. So, do I think Canelo Alvarez will duck Hamzah Sheeraz? Wouldn't shock me. Obviously, he has to get past. It wouldn't shock me because Canelo Alvarez hasn't been hungry in years. I went back and I rewatched the Billy Joe Saunders fight recently because I was hanging out with my good buddy Sean Tatel, and that Canelo Alvarez, I gotta say, he was different. He was different. His speed, his reflexes, the look in his eyes was different than it is now. Even his physique, whether it be natural or unnatural, was different. Canelo Alvarez was looking like Zach Thomas back in the day. Big old neck, extra big shoulders. He looked like Zach Thomas. And if y'all don't know who Zach Thomas is, that's the former linebacker for the Miami Dolphins back in the 2000s, one of the best to ever do it. Canelo Alvarez looked like an NFL linebacker back in the day, back in 2021 when he fought Billy Joe Saunders. He's not that guy no more. He's not that guy. He don't have that kind of hunger no more. And I think Hamzah Sheeraz, if he gets past Crawford, believe it or not, it could actually be his last big payday in the sport of boxing. So those are my initial overly early thoughts on a potential fight between Canelo Alvarez and Hamzah Sheeraz. What kind of fight could it be? Let's close with this. Stylistically, I think it could be a really interesting fight. Canelo Alvarez has heavy hands. He's one of the elite counterpunchers in the sport, and he's the most durable fighter at the championship level of boxing. He's fought plenty of punchers. He's been in plenty of big fights, plenty of dangerous fighters. Never been dropped. The closest he ever got dropped was many years ago against Jose Miguel Cotto. So I think obviously it could actually be a really good fight for Canelo because Hamzah Sheeraz, I think, with Andy Lee in his corner, Andy Lee, you got to understand, Andy Lee comes from the Kronk Gym line of thinking, lineage. He was an Emmanuel Stewart fighter. He was an Emmanuel Stewart protege. So he has a lot of the same boxing philosophies as an Emmanuel Stewart. Manuel Stewart was very big on power punching and backing guys up, and had a lot of fighters who have the similar body type to Hamzah Sheeraz, most notably Thomas Hitman Hearns. So I don't think they're going to come to box Canelo. And I think that's actually a fight that Canelo would love, because if you look at these fights Canelo's been having over the years with guys like Jermell Charlo, William Skoll, Bivol, a lot of these guys, a lot of these fighters he's been fighting, Edgar Berlanga, a lot of these guys don't really come to fight. They don't really leave their balls on the table and fight. I think that win for Hamzah Sheeraz last night is going to give him a lot of confidence. I think with the extra weight he's put on and the fact that he seems to fill out quite nicely. We'll see how he continues to develop moving forward. But I think this will allow Hamzah Sheeraz to have the confidence to get in there, leave his balls on the table, and have some exchange with Canelo. Allow Canelo to plant his feet. Canelo will plant his feet. Hamzah will plant his feet, and it'll be one of them type of fights. I think Canelo would like the fight stylistically, and that's the kind of performance where it made such a statement. And politically, a lot of things make sense to where I think Canelo would take the fight. And the reason I'm not talking about, just to close it out with this, the reason I'm not talking about Hamzah versus Crawford is because, guys, I really believe that whether Crawford beats Canelo or loses to Canelo, I think this is it. This is it, like Michael Jackson said. This is his last fight in boxing. So I think Bud winds up. I think Crawford winds up retiring. I think Terence will retire from the sport, paid very nicely. And if he wins, that's just a cherry on top. So that's why I'm not really talking about Crawford versus Hamzah. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think Canelo will fight Hamzah? I think, based on the things I said earlier in the video, I think there's great reason to believe that if he does get through Crawford, he will fight Hamzah. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys.